if they only call when they need something, if they only clap when you're failing, not rising, if their presence drains your peace more than it fuels your fire, then let me say this loud and clear. It's time to ghost everyone. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Because your peace, your purpose, your power, they don't need a crowd. They need you. Without distractions. Your energy is currency. Don't waste it on the broke. We're not just talking about money. We're talking about emotional bankruptcy, mental bankruptcy, spiritual bankruptcy. And yet, every day, you're out here spending yourself like you've got an unlimited balance. You're pouring time, love, effort, patience, kindness into people who give you nothing but overdrafts in return. If you had a bank account and someone kept withdrawing without depositing, you'd close it. So why are you still letting people bankrupt your soul? You wake up in the morning already drained, not because you didn't sleep, but because you've been emotionally financing other people's storms. That friend who only calls when life falls apart. Never to check on you, never to celebrate your wins, but you pick up anyway, every time. You listen, you encourage, you pour hope into their cracks. But the moment you're the one hurting, the line goes dead. That's not friendship. That's emotional debt. And it's time to cut off the people who treat your energy like a 24/7 emotional ATM. Take relationships. You date someone who's inconsistent. One day they're fire, the next they're ice. They disappear when you need them and reappear when they're bored. But you keep showing up. You keep investing, giving your best love, your warmest words, your rawest truth to someone who doesn't even know how to appreciate your presence. That's emotional poverty. And you're too rich in spirit to keep begging for breadcrumbs from someone who's starving for attention but refuses to nourish your soul. Even at work, it happens. You stay late, you take on extra, you solve problems, you become the go-to. But while others are applauded for the bare minimum, your excellence is taken for granted. You're not seen, you're just used. You're doing 10 people's jobs and getting one person's paycheck. You're not seen. You're just used. You're doing 10 people's jobs and getting one person's paycheck. No, they won't. Not until you stop giving so freely. Until you stop spending your worth in places that keep you broke, not just financially, but emotionally. Family too can be a leech. You call, you show up, you make the effort, you try to bridge the gap, to heal the wounds, but it's always you doing the work. And every time you don't conform, they shame you. It's okay. You do not do that the same way. You can't complain to them. You can't complain to the person. You can't complain the person, you can't complain you can't complain to the person. You can't complain. They want to see you fail. You can't, every time you succeed in a way that's different, they mock it. Still, you keep trying. But understand this. Loyalty without reciprocity is self-destruction. If they don't respect your energy, your dreams, your spirit, it's not your job to convince them. It's your job to protect your peace. Let's not forget the online world. You post something vulnerable. You share your truth. And the trolls show up. Haters with empty lives and louder opinions. You spend hours replying, defending, clarifying. But every second you waste justifying your existence to someone who doesn't even respect themselves, you lose energy you could have spent building, healing, creating. Your energy is too divine to be explained to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Even your thoughts matter. You spend hours replaying conversations, wondering what you could have said differently, how you could have made them stay, how you could have been more lovable, more perfect, more acceptable. That overthinking is interest on energy debt. And you pay for it with sleepless nights and self-doubt. You pay for it with missed moments of joy. You pay for it with pieces of yourself. You wouldn't hand your wallet to someone reckless. You wouldn't hand your wallet to someone reckless. So why hand them your time, your love, your soul? Every yes you give out of guilt is a loan you'll never recover. Every time you pour into someone who only takes, you are telling yourself that your energy is cheap. And it's not. Your energy is power. It's rare, it's elite, and it deserves to be spent where it multiplies, not disappears. When you ghost, you grow, because you finally make room for your own voice to echo back. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your energy, your presence, walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's realizing that being available for everyone left you unavailable for yourself. Growth begins the moment you stop being accessible to people who only wanted your energy on their terms. Think of the girl who's always been the yes friend. She cancels her own plans to comfort others. She stays on calls till 3 a.m. even when she's emotionally shattered. She's the unpaid therapist, the emergency contact, the human diary. But one day she goes quiet. No announcement. No confrontation. She just disappears. And instead of being overwhelmed by the silence, she uses it to heal. She picks up journaling. She drinks water without rushing. She walks alone without her phone. She doesn't post for validation anymore, because her life is no longer a show. That ghosting wasn't isolation. It was initiation into her power. Picture the guy who always chased his father's approval, tried to fit into a box he never belonged in. Till one day, he stops replying. No texts, no calls. He moves out, builds his passion project from a one-bedroom apartment, eats instant noodles while designing his dream. He ghosts the noise. And in that space, he grows. He no longer needs their applause, because now he claps for himself. Think of the woman in a relationship where she constantly questioned her worth. She dressed the way he liked, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, toned herself down to avoid conflict. She turned into a version of herself that even she couldn't recognize. Then came the moment. Just one message too late, one insult too far. She leaves. No closure, no drama. She ghosts him, blocks him, deletes every trace. But in that ghosting, something extraordinary happens. She learns how to sleep without crying. She discovers that love shouldn't require self-erasure. She discovers that love shouldn't require self-erasure. She discovers that love shouldn't require self-erasure. She learns how to sleep without crying. She discovers that love shouldn't require self-erasure. She discovers that love, and for the first time, she falls in love. Not with another man, but with the mirror. Think of the employee who's always been the go-to person in the office. Always first in, last out. Volunteering, fixing messes, covering for lazy teammates. But her ideas never make it to the meeting. Her credit is always stolen. One day, she stops overfunctioning. She stops replying to late-night emails. She ghosts the office drama and puts that time into a side hustle. that fuels her soul. Months later, she's running her own business while her old office still looks for someone to replace her. She didn't quit, she evolved. There's also the friend who was always the second option, invited last minute, remembered when others cancelled. She showed up out of love, but was treated like a backup plan. One weekend, she turns off her phone. No updates, no explanations. She goes hiking, breathes fresh air, reads books, meditates. And so the story she ghosts the world and comes back glowing. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. When they ask where she went, she smiles and says, "Somewhere you never thought to look." That's growth. Choosing peace over participation in places that never valued your presence. Imagine the boy who was bullied at school. Always made to fit less. Laughed at, pushed aside, called names. He tries to fit in, to laugh along, to hide his pain under fake smiles. Until one day, he stops showing up to the spaces that hurt him. He ghosts toxic circles, deletes social media, stops seeking their approval. Instead, he dives into coding, builds games, writes poetry, learns music. Years later, he's standing on a stage, winning awards, and the same people who mocked him are now followers. Not because he clapped back, but because he glowed up. Even the mother who gave everything to her family, cooked, cleaned, carried everyone's emotional baggage without a single complaint, but she forgot herself. One day, she tells her grown children she's going off the grid for a while. She books a solo trip. She eats alone in cafes, watches sunsets, dances in the rain. She ghosts the chaos and finds the woman she buried under sacrifice. She didn't leave out of resentment. She left to remember who she was before life asked her to be everything for everyone. But she found out something different. She left to remember who she was before life asked her to be everything for everyone. She left to remember who she was before life asked her to be everything for everyone. But she found out something different. She loved, because every time you ghost, what's breaking you? You start rebuilding you. And that quiet space, that's not emptiness. That's where your transformation begins. Love should feel like peace, not war. Yet so many people are out here confusing chaos for chemistry. They think screaming matches are passion, that walking on eggshells is normal, that emotional roller coasters are just signs of a deep relationship. No, real love doesn't come with confusion, fear, or anxiety. It comes with calm, with clarity, with a deep exhale that says, "Here, I can rest." Take the girl who constantly checks her phone, not because she's excited, but because she's anxious. He takes hours to reply, sometimes days, and when he does, it's cold, dry, distant. But the moment she stops chasing, he throws breadcrumbs of affection, just enough to keep her hooked. The 7 years ago, she mistakes those crumbs for a feast, but deep down her soul is starving. Every time she sees his name pop up, her stomach tightens. That's not love, that's psychological warfare. Peaceful love wouldn't leave you second guessing your worth every day. Think about the couple that argues more than they talk. They post pretty pictures, but behind the scenes, there's yelling, crying, slamming doors. She feels small every time he raises his voice, but she stays thinking, at least he gets passionate. At least he still reacts. No. Real love doesn't use volume to win. It uses softness to understand. It doesn't weaponize silence or play games. It doesn't say, if you loved me, you'd prove it like this. It says, I love you, so I'll protect your peace, not pierce it. There's the man who dates a woman who constantly compares him to her exes, her friends' partners, to Instagram relationships. He tries harder, buys more, plans more, and still, it's never enough. She tells him he's too emotional when he's vulnerable, then too cold when he pulls back. He's stuck in a loop, trying to be the perfect man in a playbook he never got to read. But love isn't supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be a partnership. If you feel like you're auditioning for someone's affection, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. A woman falls in love with a man who constantly tests her loyalty. He flirts with others, then accuses her of being too sensitive. He disappears on weekends and tells her, look, I need a second child. I don't feel the same desires, the same tendencies. You're not in love. You're in survival mode. A woman falls in love with a man who feels no pain. He talks too much, eats too much, opens himself to hurt. He keeps his distance. I'm a lonely bitch. I know what she is. You're too clingy. When she asks why, she ends up apologizing for asking basic questions, begging for the bare minimum. That's not romance. That's manipulation. Love should feel like home, not like a battlefield where you're always defending your heart just to keep it from shattering. Consider the young couple that grew up together. They started as best friends. No drama, no games, just pure understanding. They didn't rush. They knew each other's wounds and still chose to stay. When they disagree, they pause, breathe, and listen. They don't walk away angry. They don't say things to win. They speak to heal. That's what peaceful love looks like. It's quiet. It's steady. And in its quietness, it's loud, with trust, with respect, with security. Picture the mother who finally leaves a toxic marriage after 15 years. She used to think screaming and cold shoulders were just normal. Until one day her child said, "Mom, love shouldn't hurt like this." That shook her. Because she realized she was teaching her child that pain and love are partners. She packed her bags, not out of hate, but out of healing. Now, in her small apartment, with no shouting, no slammed doors, just soft music and deep sleep, she feels peace for the first time. And that's how she knows she's closer to real love than ever before. There's the guy who used to chase women who kept him confused. He thought love was supposed to be exciting, wild, unpredictable. But all it did was leave him exhausted, doubting himself, shrinking to fit. Then he met someone different. She communicated. She didn't play games. She didn't disappear when things got hard. She asked questions and gave answers. And suddenly, he didn't feel anxious anymore. He felt safe. And in that safety, he grew into someone softer, stronger, more honest. That's what peace does. It doesn't just comfort you. It evolves you. Even friendships reflect this truth. The ones you constantly tiptoe around, always afraid of offending, always trying to maintain your position, they exhaust you. But then there's that one friend, the one who listens without judgment, who lets you speak in broken sentences and still understands. You don't see them every day, but when you do, it feels like sunshine. That's love. Not loud, not messy, just present, just peaceful. Just enough to remind you that real love never makes you question if you're enough. It shows you that you always were. So here's the truth that will set you free. Love is not meant to be a war zone where your spirit is constantly dodging bullets just to survive another day. Love isn't meant to be a place where your peace is the price you pay to keep someone else happy. The kind of love that lasts doesn't scream to be heard. It listens without judgment. It doesn't demand your silence. It celebrates your voice. Real love should not burn you out. It should light you up. And if it doesn't feel like healing, then it was never love to begin with. We live in a world that glorifies the toxic. We write songs about pain and call it passion. We watch movies where manipulation is disguised as romance. We're told if it's not messy, it's not real. But you were not born to bleed just to prove you can love deeply. You were born to rise in love, not fall into it. You were born to build, not beg. And if someone's love feels like a battlefield, let them go. Because you were not created to fight for a heart that doesn't fight for you. Sometimes, peace feels unfamiliar because you've only known chaos. Silence feels uncomfortable because you've only heard shouting. Stability feels boring because you've been addicted to unpredictability. But when you start healing, when you start loving yourself first, your definition of love transforms. You begin to realize that butterflies are not a sign of passion. They're often a warning from your intuition saying, this isn't safe. And darling, you don't need butterflies. You need calm. You need clarity. You need to breathe without bracing for impact. There is power in walking away from anything that robs your peace. There is bravery in saying, this love is loud, but it's not kind, and I deserve kind. There is courage in ghosting the trauma you once called comfort. Because when you remove the chaos, you make space for the sacred kind of love. The slow, quiet, consistent love. The kind that doesn't raise its voice, it raises your soul. The kind that doesn't keep score, it keeps showing up. The kind that doesn't make you question your worth, it reflects it back to you. Never again let someone convince you that love has to hurt to be real. That's not romance, that's emotional warfare. If someone truly loves you, they won't make you chase clarity. They'll gift you consistency. If someone truly sees you, they won't dim your light. They'll guard it, fuel it, worship it. If someone truly values you, they'll never risk losing you just to prove a point. Let go of the idea that love has to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be perfect to be pure. It doesn't have to be loud to be loyal. Sometimes the quietest love is the most powerful. It's the hand that holds yours when the whole world turns its back. It's the one who doesn't walk ahead of you or behind you, but beside you. Every step, every stumble, every sunrise. Remember this. The right love will never ask you to abandon yourself just to keep it. The right love will not confuse you, belittle you, or make you feel like you're too much or never enough. The right love will look at your scars and still choose you, not despite them, but because of them. The right love will sound like peace, and you won't have to lose your mind to keep it. So be bold enough to release anything that doesn't feel like freedom. Be fearless enough to choose solitude over suffering. Be brave enough to rewrite your definition of love. Because one day you will look back and realize that the moment you walked away from that chaos was the moment you walked toward your crown. You either walk inside your story and own it, or you stand outside and hustle for your worthiness. Don't trade your authenticity for approval. You deserve the kind of love that feels like home, not war. And the moment you believe that, the moment you truly choose peace over pain, that's the moment your whole life begins to change. Because love should never break you down just to prove it's real. Real love builds. Real love heals. Real love heals. Real love elevates.